And at the last second, like a crazy person, with me, you can step into the mind of madness. There was a moment today, not too long ago, where I was actually thinking about not doing this episode, but I have so much to do later on in the week that I really needed to cram this in today as opposed to tomorrow or Friday. So here we are. I'm actually still in the midst of getting the episode ready. As usual, chat's free fire. I'll check to see if I see your comments onto what we're doing on the episode. And, super chats are always appreciated if you're watching live because, any little bit helps the channel. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place right now. I kind of, like I said, this is a very last second decision. I just got home. I haven't even had a chance to read my WWE comic book. That's right. They're comic books. Deal with it. They belong in Heroclix now. All right. So what did we do yesterday? Well, yesterday we had a little bit of discussion about ideas I could be pulling forth. We built my Days of Future Past Month 2 event team, though now it's a little harder for me to get to it, I think. My normal ride... We might not be able to do we might not be able to do our on the road show, Move and Attack, because I don't think people appreciate you chit chatting on the bus like you're on some kind of a YouTube show or something like that. So we may or may not be doing that, but we still appreciate any questions, any submissions for questions that we have. I haven't checked the question submissions in a little bit, but I hope some people are putting some of those questions in. We do appreciate any of them that we can get. What else? Yesterday we spent a fair bit of time talking about the very idea of Heroclix Pauper, the all common format, as it were. A lot of people are saying, or suggesting, why not commons, uncommons, and rares only? That's a different format. That is not the format I push for. The format I push for, commons, uncommons, and commons only, and fast force figures. It has this nasty habit of shutting up the pay-to-win players. And by pay-to-win players, I mean shutting up people who claim that this game is pay-to-win. In fact, a good example of that, it was when I did run one of my a sizable event. I think 23 people showed up for it. A brick was on the line. And the player who won is a consistent winner at our local venue. He's a very good player, and he has used such things as Nick Fury's. I think Nick Fury is the most notable figure he spent a lot of time winning with. But he has used like the high-end chase, super rare kind of stuff. I think he used a Unimind build a little while ago, but don't quote me on that one to be sure. So he's not a player who only uses chases, as he proved in this event. He's capable and smart enough to work his way through a series of commons and fare well enough, as it were. And we spent a lot of time talking about that yesterday and how really cool that format is and whatnot. But today might be a little bit more of a laid-back day. We may or may not get to some builds. We'll probably do our Pauper build for the day because that's going to be a thing I'm going to do for a little bit. Make sure we get at least one of these all-common builds in. I'm pretty set on one of my two teams for Canada Cup. I do need to get a lot more practice with the ruler team before I can be comfortably safe with that one. I have a confession to make before we get started on my laid-back kind of stuff. I don't get as much practice as I preach. Not even close. I am married to a person who plays Heroclix. I live with said person, and I do not get enough time to practice. Neither of us get enough time to practice our teams. In fact, my practice, as it were, is the biggest trial by fire you can think of, because I don't bring super competitive teams to local events. I don't get to get that kind of practice in. We haven't been able to practice our competitive teams in the after hours as much as we would like. We'd go in for a tournament, we'd spend like an hour or two afterwards, play a couple games with our new teams, discuss our new teams or whatever, and go from there. And as a result, my form of practice has been losing at Canadian Nationals, winning at a WKO with my monster team. That was all my practice with my monster team, short of 2 or 3 practice games prior to. It is not as practiced as I want it to be, as Canadian Nationals proved to me, because I went stupid and chased down a Shark Shredder that I thought for sure. I had the odds so set in my favor to get that hit, and I couldn't pull off that hit. I felt so embarrassed when I turned around and said, okay, for my start of my turn, first I want to count how many points I've killed. Okay, I've got, oh no, time, no. That was how everything went down for that. And it time was short enough. I think I'd done the math on that and realized it. So what I'm getting at is I'm not getting as much practice as I preach, which is why I'm leaning back towards the monster team if I can't get some more practice games in with my ruler team. I really didn't want to replay a team I've done well with, but there are some fundamental changes because I now currently own every single one of the Super Friends, along with a couple doubles now, because I do have to get a couple extras to be sure Amber has access to some of them, should she need them in a nutshell, and should there be any kind of argument for it, as it were. The idea of borrowing them gets a little bit muddy when other people are using them. Also want to point out Chris Stockhouse had a mention in our Metal Lab episode. He said that they're not made for every team. They are made for every team, but they're not made for every situation. You can put them on there, but there were some games where I've only brought out one, and it was when I knew for a fact that it was the best situation for that character, and that character was going to survive the situation they were in. That's kind of how that goes. I have lost a fair number of these guys in the course of the games, but usually games I'm ahead in. So they are actually turning out to be a little bit of a win more strategy for me than they probably should be. All right. But I did want to take a step back. And recently I've been watching a lot of, I go on YouTube and I take in information content because at work I don't get, I can't really watch it because I'm trying to focus on my work, but I can listen to it. So any quality content that is, duo act podcast and YouTube channel, I can get a little bit of time in on. And through my lunches, I will hop on TCG Player and see there's a series they run called Pretty Deece. Pretty spelled normally, but Deece, D-E-E-C-E. And that series has kind of covered a bunch of really cool topics. One of which was the worst block in the game. This is a Magic the Gathering thing, but I'm going somewhere Heroclix with this. Trust me, okay? Just trust me on this one. I'm not going to try to steer you wrong. All right. So one of the episodes they talked about was the worst block of Magic, called I believe it was the Mercadian Masks block or the Invasion block. I'm not sure which one it's actually called. It's a murky area in my Magic the Gathering memory because it was I had left for a little bit just after Urza Saga, got back in around Kamigawa, which he talks about as well. And then left a little after the Ravnica block. And then after Ravnica, I jumped back in Shadows over Innistrad, I believe was it was Shadows over Innistrad that got me back into the game. I don't know why. I just decided to start playing Magic, and I started watching Magic Pro Tour on Twitch. I still only play Pauper and Commander. Those are the two formats I play in. And I'll play any sealed or draft or pre-release that I can get my hands on if I'm not particularly busy at that juncture. So I am going to the Return to Ravnica. Thank you, happy little Heroclix pre-release this month. I'm excited for that because everything with the word Ravnica attached to it is always super strong. It's unavoidable. MTG loves Ravnica. That's just how it is. Anyway, in addition to covering things like the worst block, he did cover the history of the Kaladesh block, and rather Kaladesh and its entry into Standard play. Now, Standard, as a Magic the Gathering format, in Heroclix is to Magic as Modern is to Heroclix. So when I talk about modern Magic, that's actually more akin to ROC Age for those who play in ROC events, which is ROC Age is actually probably the exact kind of parallel, as it were, because Magic the Gathering Modern says anything from 8th edition on, and that's when we put our heads on straight. I got a lot of comments about that one, but we'll move from there. But what the ROC or ROC likes to call the ROC Age tournament is, everything with the Oreo dial on. That's when we think design got their head screwed on tight. Every game, it's a collectible game, has lapses in memory or lapses in judgment. It's unavoidable. And that's kind of what this series that I've been watching has really covered fairly well. And that's actually it's a good thing to look at the parallels, because so often people say you can't compare Magic to Heroclix. Anybody who tells you that is A, lying to themselves, and B, not very educated on both games. While one is, yes, a collectible card game, and I can tell you there's a certain number of differences that you can't compare, like cost of creation. It's incomparable. Magic the Gathering costs pennies compared to Heroclix, because Heroclix requires mass amounts of plastic. And that is not a really good resource or easy resource to manage. When you compare to gameplay on the board, well, it's completely different, because I have 60 secrets from you when we sit down, and until things go on the table, everything's a secret. Heroclix, nothing's a secret, with the exception we try to keep the dial secret. The dial is the closest thing to a secret we have, right? So, like, we break parallels there, but where we have consistency and things you can't compare is competitive play and design flow. And what I mean by design flow is, in one of these series, in this series, 2 episodes stand out to me as very comparable to Heroclix. One of which, there's the one where he covers the worst block ever. It talks about the set that came out when he was very young, and it was just poorly designed, and it was a vast, like, kickback, because what had happened prior to that set was the Urza's block, which in Standard led to about a certain number of cards being banned. And in Magic the Gathering, they are happy to ban a card if it breaks the game. Heroclix, the closest thing we've had to a ban was called Early Retirement for Felix Faust. That means he was Golden Age, so he wasn't completely banned. But that's okay, because they also have different bannings levels in Magic the Gathering as well. And so what ends up happening is, in the Urza's block, they banned a certain number of cards, and then Design turned around and said, we cannot ban a bunch of rares going into this next set. You cannot do that to us. So the Design team was like, okay, well, we should take it easy on Design. And they kind of took it too easy, right? I don't remember that particular thing. A lot of people look at Joker's Wild as that for this game, and it's actually more comparable to something else that we're going to be talking about a little later. Again, we're doing parallels of Magic and Heroclix and storytelling kind of mode here, and then we're going to build a Pauper team later on. Lord of Tai, I think is that's how you say your name. So, anyway, in the series, he covers Circadian Masks and how over designing kind of happened in that set. Then in the middle of in another episode, he talks about how the Kaladesh block kind of formed the most recent, like from Kaladesh's release to now, Magic has been a nightmare in Standard. For one, the set itself, Kaladesh, and its sister set, Aether Revolt, have been in Standard for way too long. I think it's a solid 2 years that those two sets have seen the Standard life. A little less for Aether Revolt, of course, but I mean, they also had a lot of dominant cards. When the set first showed up, and then they had to actually kind of step back and readdress how they banned cards in Magic the Gathering. In fact, the original pillar points, they kind of looked at and said, that's actually a little bit more powerful than, that's setting the bar a little too high. We need to set the bar here. But then since Kaladesh has come out, I think 5 cards from the set itself have been banned, which is silly. I might be overdoing it. Yeah, they did change their block structure to 2 set blocks, which was why they were supposed to have 1 year rotations in Standard. This was all part of their plan, and this plan got hijacked by the players. So sometimes, guys, we should be a little bit more aware of what people are trying to do and let things flow and give everything a chance to. We need cycles to occur before we start complaining. Once a cycle has occurred, then we can kind of look at it and go, Oh, okay, that's cool. I see what's happening now. We have to have a time to adapt to it, see if that adaptation led to something else. And then throughout the set, like while the set has been in standard, they had another set come out, or another pair of sets, Amonkhet, and then it's talking about just how standard had like turned into this weird flowing. Okay, there's a bunch of weird decks. There's a bunch of red decks. This was weird. It was a really weird flow to standard in Magic the Gathering, and our modern age does this part fairly well. Although we do have our peaks at times. I think the worst peaks have been the introduction of the Unimind team to the metagame alongside Nighthawk Prime. And the other one was the team-based / Ghost Rider meta. If you go back in time, you were either playing the Justice League team-based or you were playing Ghost Rider. Those are the two peak broken metas, I think. Like there was the Metron meta, which also consisted of Nightcrawler, but like that was it was Metron wasn't as bad. Like if you look back and say, wow, we complained about Metron? Really? Like let's take a little bit of time and go back in history before I continue story time and comparisons of Magic the Gathering and Heroclix. And Fuzzy Wumple, that's what we've been doing. I've been watching a series on YouTube called Pretty Dece, which is done by TCG Player. And it's been talking about the history of a couple Magic sets that I'm familiar with. And watching this history kind of lesson has brought to light, comparisons that we can draw in Heroclix and kind of base our reactions a little bit more intelligently. This is the kind of the goal I'm going. It's not really a build episode this week. I'm going to at one point build a popper build because I'm really high on that right now. And I think by next week, I'm going to try to put it together this weekend. The official Jason Collins, was it Jason? The official Jason Collins Heroclix popper format. That's what we'll call it. The Heroclix popper format, and should be adapted. It'll be adapted. The year of Infinity Gauntlet when it first came out, but even though Glove was on every team, it was a different figure. Yeah, that was just a tentpole meta, which was cool. I thought that was fine. A lot of some teams just use the Gauntlet as a bonus to a figure. Other people relied on getting to that +1, +2. That was here or there. It was one of the most entertaining because it was also the first year that Worlds had been under camera. And it was by far the most entertaining Heroclix I'd ever seen. And I'd seen a lot of games, just not on camera. All right, so let's talk about Metron. What was Metron? Metron was a Quintessence 195-point character who had 8 range, and he was 8 clicks long. 7 clicks. 8 clicks. 7 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clicks to kill. Sorry, my bad. All right, so he had a special attack power on all of his clicks, the price of knowledge. Metron can use Quake, Psychic Blast, and Pulse Wave. Immediately after resolution of an action in which Metron uses any of these powers, roll d6. On a roll of 1 or 2, deal Metron 1 unavoidable damage, a little bit of a downside. Metron can use Outwit and Probability Control. Once per turn, he can use one of the following powers: Leadership, Perplex, or Support. This guy was back when this guy first existed, he was the PAC. Everything he has is basically everything you wanted in the pack. Now, granted, it's before a certain number of rules changes, but he had Perplex, he had a number of things. Basically, it was my Metron attacks, your blank dial because I'm using Pulse Wave. You attack back on my Metron, and that was how the middle. So basically, Metron countered Metron, and then it actually became a 105-point tournament. It was a little bit of an insane meta, but it wasn't. I wouldn't call it toxic. Metron was killable. He has invulnerable start and then turns into super senses. If you could get by that, now back then Precision Strike was still just an idea. If you could get by those powers, you're done. You're good. You can kill a Metron. It wasn't a difficult task. But it was difficult as well because back then Probability Control, Outwit, Perplex all had a 10 range. Leadership was not nearly close to as good as it was. I think it was actually an extra action on a 4, 5, or 6. And, you had Psychic Blast as well to use your full 8 range. He was a super flexible, really hard to deal with figure. And if you look at it now, it's that's pretty good, but that's pretty silly and easy to kill. But you got to think of the environment at the time, and the environment at the time could not kill that. Good. So yeah, it was pretty tough times. And Happy Little Heroclix, like the winning team played by Daniel Joins was this Metron along with a Nightcrawler, the Crimson Gem of Sidorak, and I believe it was like a Night Nurse was the figure that was from Web of Spider-Man. And that kind of culminated in the final match because Nightcrawler wasn't allowed to use his hypersonic because his opponent. I forgot who Dan's opponent was because I have met Dan in person and I may have met his opponent in the final round, but memory doesn't serve me well, or he could very well not be playing the game anymore. I don't know, but his opponent was using a character whose name I can't remember. I think it was Johnny. No, not Johnny Quick. Anyway, the character's trait was opposing characters can't use hypersonic, or other characters can't use hypersonic. So he had hypersonic, and nobody else could use hypersonic, which was Kid Zoom. There it was. Boom. And yeah, that was a really cool idea because it was Metron Nightcrawler. So this guy's like, okay, well, everybody's going to use Nightcrawler, so I'm going to use Metron with this guy. Dan got his relic roll, lucky guy, on his Crimson Gem of Sidorak, and he was able to charge 7 squares with super strength with a Nightcrawler. Just think about that. If you, I think actually both players ended up rolling their Gem of Sidorak, so it was kind of a neutral ground. It was a very neutral, very fair game, but it really came down to who was able to hit those pulse wave rolls and hit those hits and hit those attacks and roll those shape changes and super senses. It was, but it was still entertaining to watch to a certain degree. Anyway, so I go back to that because we're talking about the parallels that are being drawn in Magic, and that while that figure was dominant, I wouldn't have called for a ban on him. He was just really good. If anything needed a ban, it would have been team bases, but that was a massive design oversight. They tried to in the end, WizKids doesn't ban, they errata, which in part is worse in my opinion, because it's not new player friendly. If a new player comes to a local venue, like you go to a venue to play in a tournament, you still have to play by tournament rules, right? So let's say we have a player still new to the game, not necessarily let's say it was a brother, sister, or a boyfriend, girlfriend combo who bought a starter set, whenever those come out, learned how to play through that, had only the cards to go off of, haven't touched the internet, haven't looked up the game at all, happened across the store that said, hey, we have tournaments on Saturday. That happen to be the store that they buy things. So they show up on this Saturday, and then they find out 2 of their characters work completely different than what's on the card. And that's jarring for a new player. And I think erratas are a dangerous game to play, and bans are safer. But I don't like banning because I bought things. I like the things I have, and I want to play with the things I have. So it's neither is the ideal solution. Neither is a great solution. But because WizKids doesn't support a format beyond its own modern age, we are kind of stuck with the way they have to do things, because they need to make everything playable in their format. Otherwise, if something can't be played in their format, whatever, right? So we go back to Pretty Decent's series of shows, and we talk about their we were talking about the Kaladesh block and how 5 cards were banned from the set, which was a shame. And we look forward in the game right now. That set is about to cycle out, which is why this has all come up. But there are still a lot of problems in the game, or still a lot of threats in the game, and it becomes they're about to hit their flux state where it's big rotation. Okay, what's the new meta? And there's when their standard changes, it's way more jarring than when our modern era changes, because I will never say that this game is not a victim of power creep. It is a victim of power creep. And by the time modern rotation rolls around, we're already kind of going the next direction, with a few exceptions. Some things that stayed to the end include the zombie team base. Zombie team base was there until it was dead. And I'm talking like full-blown teams, like not parts of a team. So like Nighthawk Prime was part of the Unimind team, but Unimind carried into the later days, you know. I heard a thing recently, and I just want to say that there were a bunch of different versions of the Unimind, but the Unimind is 165 points of the team, guys. That's the figure, right? Don't kid yourself on that one either. Anyway, so our modern tends to see only minor dumps of things because our game is very prone to power creep, which makes it's less jarring when we go from modern age to modern age. Like when things rotate out, a lot of the times the things that were good on the rotation were already good. You can see that as a good or a bad thing. I tend to see that as universally good, because not universally good, but mostly good. Sorry. It's rough because we want to see new teams kind of flesh out when modern rotates. It's a thing we all want to see. We want to see the new hotness that comes from the rotation. The problem we run into, I think the next rotation doesn't even see Mighty Thor out. Yeah, because I think the next rotation goes as far as maybe Avengers Defenders War at best. Like that's not ideal. Right? Because then that still leaves a lot of things that we're using right now. And then that's where the power creep comes in. The power creep comes and starts to combat those things. And anyway, so going back to this, where I'm going with this. In this series, they went over this. And then there's another episode, a third episode that I had watched. And this one talked about the Kamigawa block, which I had played in. But when I played in it, standard was poison. And by poison, I mean your opponent would put cards down. Like, let's say you were like me, you're a lapsed Magic player, and this Kamigawa block came out. It's like, oh, I got this really cool white deck. Let's take it to a tournament, a standard tournament, and let's see how I fare. And my opponent was playing a team. I did not get that Jite. No. My opponent, you're going to find out why it wouldn't have mattered in a second. My first and second opponent were playing a deck called Affinity. It didn't matter what I did, because by turn 2, I was generally dead. Magic had done something when I wasn't looking and turned into blackjack. I wasn't ready for that. I was a little thrown off. So I was taken aback, and I was like, what's going on? But at the same time, I was playing the versus system professional. So I was a little less like hurt by this, but I was still a little like, how do I play Magic anymore? And I would look at the Affinity decks and be like, I'm not spending that. I'm not buying it. No, I don't want to do that. What's more, this guy brings up the year that Affinity dominated, like the Mirrodin block as itself was the oldest set, and Kamigawa block was coming in. Every single GP and everything else was not standard. Standard was not used for professional play. The only people playing standard were at high level, store level. All GPs were either legacy or draft or seal. Like, let that sink in for a second. That almost feels like the guys who make the game know what they did. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Everything was just artifacts. It was even scarier because, like, somebody had played an artifact land, like, oh, that's cool. And then they played like a monster, a creature on 1, some kind of mirror, I think, who also tapped for mana. And then turn 2, he plays another one of these artifact lands, like, that's cool. And then taps 1 land, plays a Frogmite. I'm like, but that costs 4. Affinity for artifacts. Huh. That's cool. And then he plays another one like, whoa, hold on a second. This is getting out of hand. Then he taps his other 2 mana, plays an Arcbound Ravager. Uh-oh. What do I do now? And then things started to just crumble underneath me. I get my turn to land, play a 1/1 with first strike. I was like, yeah, what? And then he's like, okay, I play I think it was a Lodestone Mirror, which is a 7-cost 4/4 with affinity for artifacts. So I think it costs like 0 because he played another land. I was like, oh well, I'm about to die, aren't I? It was so aggressive. I was not ready for it. And I think he galvanic blasted my 1 creature on the board and just murdered my face. It was Now I play Affinity and Pauper. I also have a red-blue Is It Rush. Anyway, I'm talking too much about Magic because I'm trying to drop parallels, and I love this game. I'm looking at 5 packs of Battle Bond that I want to open. Anyway, what happens here is he starts talking about the Kamigawa block, and this is where the parallels are going to start coming in. When it came in, Affinity owned, and nobody was playing it in the pro level. Like, nobody was playing Standard in the pro level because Magic the Gathering took it out of the pro levels. The Grand Prix, the pro tournaments, only pro qualifiers and store level tournaments were Standard play. And then Mirrodin block pushed out of the game. Okay, cool. That's no longer Standard. And then in comes Ravnica. And the game kind of settles out. The Ravnica Kamigawa block time was really cool. First of all, Ravnica broke all rules of the color pie prior to that. While people themselves were trying to break the rules of the color pie, Ravnica just did it. And the rules of the color pie is as follows. In Magic the Gathering, there's 5 colors. Each color used, when they first designed the game, had a color pairing. White was against red and black, but was friends with blue and green. Red was friends with black and green, but against white and blue. And so on and so forth, right? And what ended up happening is Ravnica was like, hey, let's take everything you know about the game and change that color pie. It's like, what? What's going on? It's shocking. And I think my first deck out of there was a Boros deck, and it felt good. Anyway, but Kamigawa block kind of felt like a set. Everybody looked at the set like it didn't do anything. And the reason it didn't do anything is because the sets prior were absolute dominating trash, garbage, poison for the metagame. Now, we don't have anything on that level for Heroclix, but I do want to take a second and point out a set that I think is the Kamigawa of Heroclix, and that is the Joker's Wild. The Joker's Wild, in my opinion, with the exception of Jakeem Thunder, everybody was hot on Jakeem Thunder. It was overall a set overshadowed by a very rough meta to walk into, because when we look at where we were coming from as far as Modern is concerned, we're talking about oldest set Age of Ultron. It wasn't oldest set Age of Ultron. It was oldest set Trinity War? I don't know. The last meta had Ultrons in it prior to Joker's Wild coming out. And when it came out, Ultron was still dominating. Devil Dinosaur teams were just starting to show up. It was very, very high level, high figure points. Like, Nick Fury was still a part of the game. It was gross. It was so hard to do. And Joker's Wild offered Jakeem Thunder. That was it. And Jakeem Thunder could be dealt with. Like, people were not afraid of Jakeem Thunder because Nick Fury was an option, or that was an option, or something else was an option. And I believe that tournament, that year's Rocktober, both the Rocktober and the Heroclix World Cup were won by Quinjets. Not a poisonous meta, but a very dominant one, dominated by the ID cards, of course. I'm never going to be poo-pooing ID cards because I'm never going to poo-poo an idea that does allow me to use more of my figures. But they are a little potent in as far as what they do. And I think it's less that the ID cards needed to be scaled back. It was that the characters need to be scaled back. And they kind of got there with X-Men, but then created a different monster with the Blackbird. And when you include things like Lila Cheney and non-unique characters, it got a little intense. So all of that said, I think Joker's Wild is a set that if it came out in a later date or at a different time, in a different competitive metagame, people would be dumping on it less. Or if it, if it came out just at a different time. It was a bad time for the set to come out, unfortunately. And I like when the set goes, I'm gonna miss it because it had a lot of fun. And if I was gonna dump on anything for the set, it was the fact that the chases were not chaseable, really. That's my biggest dump on the set. Like they're neato dudes and they're super fun chases, but like I think one of them became competitive, maybe two have competitive potential, but for the most part, they just didn't end up doing. First sealed was Dark Seal. I didn't play my Skull Clamp because it gave my creatures -1 health, and that's bad. That's okay. You only had like a week to play with the Skull Clamp anyway. That's an example of bad play testing. I think it was like a week after a set came out, they banned a card. Like, we didn't play test this right, guys. My bad. Because their equipment in their game, their equipment mechanic is you pay the mana, you put the equipment on the character dies, the equipment comes back over here for me to put on somebody else. Nobody else is going to be able to get my equipment. What's up, LeBron James? I love your username so much. Anyway, so that was my story time. I've been enjoying this series, and I've been drawing my parallels with Heroclix. And I just big shout out to TCG Player and Pretty Dece. The series has been really good to watch, and it's really good I'd suggest any of you guys take a minute, watch these 3 episodes specifically. And it's, let me find them for you so that you know which ones, because I'm just kind of saying things right now. And TCG Player, I'm going to pull up their YouTube. So here's a little plug for you guys. And so here it is, the TCG Player YouTube. And the videos are, actually, Kamigawa was great. And it all came tumbling down, the story of Kaladesh and Standard. And I also talked about the worst block in MTG history episode as well. These little history lessons are great. And if you are a Magic player, this series is a lot of fun to watch. Things like the Legacy Bands Explained, Liliana Untouched by Death, Infinite Combo. He covers a lot of things. 3 reasons to ban the Chain Whirler, especially now that Ravnica is coming along. There's a card that gives him Death Touch. Gross. Or that you can use to give him Death Touch. He also does an episode on like what makes a card a commander card, which is a pretty fun one. So, yeah. Again, if you like Magic, it's a really good watch. If you don't like Magic, watch those 3 episodes that I mentioned specifically, so you kind of just to broaden your horizon and understand where games can go and come from, and how we've had it. Like in the 15 years of Heroclix, we've had it fairly easy compared to the 25 years of Magic and some of the rough stuff that they've gone through. I mean, they've had full-blown years, especially in the early days. There was the year of Ice Age, we'll call it, because there was 4 sets that I could say was like, how did Magic get through this? And they were all in a row. It was like Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Alliances, and Homelands. Like, how did they get through that? Like, this is the most disgusting hump of Magic the Gathering ever just thought of. And I played in those days, and it was just like, what am I doing? What do my cards do? What's good? I don't understand anymore. It's a weird time. It's a great time to learn the game because everything is good and trash at the same time. Then Tempest Block came along, and everything started to make sense again. All right, so I did say I would do it yesterday. I said I was going to do it today. And we're going to do another Pauper build, another all-common, all-fast force build. Because, yeah. LeBron, it's mostly been me kind of unloading. I got home a little late today, so I didn't really come into this with an idea as much as I watched the thing and did some stuff. And today we're going to do another Pauper build and then probably call it a night, just to kind of keep it cool. So anyway, I'm staring at my phone very unprofessionally while I'm doing this episode with you guys. I'm so sorry. All right, so yesterday we built a big old ball of death with the Green Lantern, Iron Fist, Batman, and 2 Catmans, along with the triples. Like, when I think of the fact that I built a team with 2 Catmans, I smile. It makes me happy. I don't know where I want to go. I kind of want to get a starting point because all commons as a format for Heroclix. I like to, because this is so wide open to us, and we're just trying to kind of we know we want to get around Batman Beyond. We want to get around Cable. So those are 2 characters we have to think about when we're building. I'm just trying to think about what my starting point. Like, where do we start? And what figure do we want to start? Because yesterday we started around Iron Fist because I like Iron Fist. I've been watching the show. Got another episode in last night. Holy smokes, is this season still going strong? And without spoiling anything, I want to see Netflix just go out there and give me a what's the word I'm looking for? Daughters of the Dragon series. We have a winner. Mr. Graves wants me to start with the Black Panther from Avengers Infinity. That's a common one. So what do we got? We got a 60-point character. And let's pull him up on the screen because you don't want to hear me talk about it. You want to see this because this is how this works. All right. This is like one of the best advertisements for HC Rums ever, isn't it? All right. So we have 60-point character with the Avengers, Marvel Knights, Ruler, and Wakanda keywords. He's got sidestep, super senses, exploit weakness, and that flip-flops in the dial where he will go sidestep, flurry, sidestep, flurry, sidestep, flurry, blank blades, blank blades, blank blades. And then it's 3 super senses followed by 3 combat reflexes, and we go in between exploit, nothing, exploit, nothing, exploit, nothing. Ignores elevated and hindering for movement, and he's got stealth. And when he KOs a character, he can use charge as free this turn. That's kind of cool. All right, Black Panther it is. So our options here. Now I just want to take a quick look at somebody just to see. No, okay, cool. Because I wanted to look at keywords to see if we could. I want to try this time to see if we can come up with a valid theme team that will work for this. And what I want to do is we're going to take this advanced search. We're going to go back to modern age. We're going to go back to commons. Common. Nope. Oh, I'm a hot mess, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. Con in your store exclusive is not what I wanted to do for that. I wanted to do it. All right, let's start with I think Avengers is going to be the most flexible keyword that I can use for this. So let's see how that goes. Augment Avengers. All right. So from that, we get a couple options. Is the might? I have to check. So that means you're going to watch me go back and forth to that search again. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. But does this Hulk really not have? He does have Avengers Brute. How is he? Oh, he's rarity starter set. That's why. See, this is the problem with running with HC Realms. I'll address some Marvel Knights build after we start with a pretty safe Avengers build. How about that? Okay. So we got Black Panther and the Hulk. The reason I want to go with the Hulk is the Hulk leads with a big boof, and then the Black Panther can kind of take out after that. So that's my thought process on the matter. So that does put us at 111 points, and we haven't even considered how we're getting there. Common. Because the thing about the Marvel Knights, you're gonna find when I do that is that it's just gonna be that guy has Marvel Knights, that guy has Marvel Knights, that guy has Marvel Knights. I don't think there's a lot of flexibility for the team. So I'm not gonna get your hopes up too early. All right, what do we got from? Okay, here we go. Here's our TK in Moondragon, who can also attack. She can also mind control. And if somebody does happen to bring a Cable or a what's his name, you know the guy I'm talking about. She can actually boost her Batman Beyond. She can boost her stats on an attack against them. She's got close combat expert. Yeah. She adds a little bit of extra oomph that I like, and the fact that she's got TK makes me super comfy. All right. Which Iron Man is this? It's 100 points. We got that. Am I going to be the guy that says I'm putting Iron Rick on this team? What does he do? When Iron Rick knocks back an opposing character and after damage is dealt, any damage dealt from that knockback is penetrating damage, and after actions resolve, give that character an action token. Why not? Why not? I'm Iron Rick! Sorry, I had a moment of silence. I was reading and trying to catch what Amber had said to me. Okay. You know what? I feel like there's something here. Because this is the yellow jacket that says he can use Perplex, and when he does, choose one. He uses Perplex normally, or unique modifier, can use Perplex target all friendly characters within 4 squares of line of fire! Choosing a single combat value. This seems to be a theme. When I build these teams of me doing this nonsense. Oh goodness, I might do that. I'm gonna put the hard maybe on him while I kind of take another excuse me. Quick look through what we have here. 80 points. I can't squeeze that. This Iron Man. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what I was talking about when I said sorry, Iron Rick. I believe this Iron Man kind of takes the cake on you. Oh no, this is not the Iron Man I thought it was. But he's let's see. All right, let's look it up. I want to talk about it. Is this trait. Once per game, when Iron Man hits a single opposing character with an attack, if he shares a keyword with the target, you may counter that character's defense power for this attack. Okay, cool. Defense power. Your shield can't scratch me, Steve. Iron Man can use Impervious. Iron Man can't be targeted by an attack using Close Combat Expert. Kind of not going to happen. But he's also got Ranged Combat Expert with Leadership. He just lacks a lot of move and attack. Okay, I'm gonna lose my excitement on it. I was kind of excited, and then I lost that excitement. So I'm gonna put Iron Rick back on the team. Now, what is this Jessica Jones? This is the Shield Jessica Jones. Not necessarily a bad choice. Keep my name last, though. When building your force, if your force also includes one character named Captain America, Jessica Jones, I don't have a Captain America. Can use super sensitive toughness. Just kind of an okay character. I think we need Iron Rick can carry. Moondragon can TK and carry. So the Hulk and the Black Panther are kind of covered for being able to get in there. So at this point, I have 75 points, a great number in the all-common field, let me tell you, which is it's a super flexible option. I can get a really good Spider-Man for 70 points. That gives me the Spider-Man team ability, which I don't think I'm getting much out of except for the Avengers team ability on this team. He's got Call and Help from Spider-Verse, which won't trigger on this team, and he can use Super Senses when he does increase the result by 1 for every 100 points the attacking character's cost. I liked him, and then I didn't. So, what is this Spider-Girl? Okay, here we go. Now we're talking. Running Shot and Psychic Blast. Like, once again, Call and Help from this. I think there's a Spider-Man family hiding in this format that we haven't addressed yet. She can use Force Blast and Plasticity as part of her movement, but that's late dial. She can use Probability Control, but only when she attacks or is attacked, which is on her first 3 clicks. Probability Control is not bad, and we're getting that from the theme team, but more props not bad. And then I know I don't have to use theme props on her. I like this Iron Man at 55 points, the common from Avengers Defenders War, who can heal the one time. Let's pop him on there and see where we're at. We're at 280 points. Uh-oh. How am I ever going to fill those points? I don't know, guys. Whatever will I do? Oh, no. How do I get that many? Oh, look at that. Hi, Giant Girl. How you doing? We also have an extra carrier as a result. Yeah, JD Clicks. Yesterday, we were covering this format, this all-common format, and Cable and Batman Beyond are the obvious choices. So we wanted to kind of think about teams that can possibly compete with them, while at the same time not necessarily using them. Or rather, Jason is banned from using easy mode in this particular exercise, as was determined upon him yesterday. Now we have another 10 points. I see this team possibly being able to use a capture bot would be neat. I'm currently looking at the bystanders coming a starter from Turtles Unplugged. Because one thing we got to remember is because this format is going to allow Fast Force characters to start characters. Yeah, that's right. Mudmen are a part of this format. I'm sorry, guys. That's my bad. My bad. And I'm not going to say no bystanders to it because I want to allow it. So it's got to be just another consideration. But I'm kind of hot on the capture bot, to say the least. I would suggest 2 of the giant girls, but then that tells you to go buy 2 of the fast forces, and then people start complaining about pay to win. Yeah, my life becomes a nightmare again. We could also fill that last 10 points with somebody, anybody. Thug. When building your force, choose a character named keyword that is at least 2 higher point characters on your team have. Thug has a keyword for the game but can't use theme prop, but does count towards it. Not that that's going to matter because we definitely hit our 5. So, because I don't want to say no to anything that's part of the format. I just want to play Heroclix with commons and fast forces. So you got to work around Mudmen. And unfortunately, HC Realms, the stats aren't there, but they're like shape change, toughness, and plasticity or something ridiculous like that. I think we can manage that. I think that's something that can be dealt with in the format. But I don't feel like it's super broken problematic per se. I could be proven wrong. Who knows? I'd have to look at the Mudmen to be absolutely sure. Once again, and because as I have just discovered, either it's a glitch or okay. I'm gonna take this off my face for a second as I dig deep into the discussion threads because they tend to have what we're looking for in this particular case. It is disinteresting, and that's why I wouldn't use it. Giant Girl is also not super interesting as well, but I mean, they got that many fast forces. They've also got to deal with the fact that they got all the other characters that are in the fast forces. And, you know, every format has something that's like, seriously, guys. But we just kind of, as we do, pipe through. Dude, why? Come on, man. I guess it's not an upcoming set anymore. Where would be a good place to find the Mudmen? Actually, Heroclix Mudmen. There we go. Images. Maybe it's images. Images. Sorry, I'm trying to find the Mudman just to get a look at it to see what the dial is, and try to come up with a thing to come up with it, or to deal with it. One thing that's worth noting is the Fast Forces Giant Girl doesn't quite do what the uncommon one does. It does allow the ability to Colossal Retaliate after Colossal Retaliation, and there's 2 Colossal Retaliators in the format of the All Commons only format, and that is her and the Stiltman, which is why I just gotta allow. Here we go, Mudman. Nope, that's an ant swarm. Nope, that's Beni. Is it maybe on? I don't think they previewed it. I think it just showed up, and we're like, really? What is this? What is this nonsense? What is this doing in my fast forces? Because I remember they showed off. They showed off all the pogs except for the Mudman, I think, as part of the previews, and then the Mudmen showed up, and I was like, oh, we made fun of everything, and then they made this one in there. It's like they were hiding them from us. Like they couldn't show it to us for the first time. Unplugged. Here we go. I think it's 4 sidestep, 10 quake, 17 or 16 super sense, 3 shape change, starts with 2 tokens, KO things to get more. Okay, so it's manageable. It's not. So here we go. Mudman was previewed. All right, awesome. Plasticity, Mudman starts with 2 life tokens and gains a life token each time he KOs an opposing character. When Mudman would be KO'd, if he has any life tokens instead, remove 1, protected Pulse Wave. So Pulse Wave is not going to be the answer on that power, but it does get rid of the rest of his powers. And then, I mean, Poison helps. If you can get Poison on him, that goes a long way too. He's got a lot of rollouts, so you got to just avoid the rolling is really the trick. So I'm not going to say there's a billion answers to it, but there's ways of managing him. The fact that he does 3 damage is uncomfortable. Oh, yeah. So that's a thought. It's something to consider in the format. And if we go back to my team, where we stand right now, units. Where are we right now? Am I going to lose to Mudmen? No, probably not. No, because it's a would-be KO'd, and the effect results in the effect being replaced with not being KO'd. So unfortunately, you wouldn't get the charge after the fact, which would be bloody amazing. But if you can get one of those life points down, here we go. Iron Rick, I think, is actually our answer. Because Iron Rick could not find a way to knock them back. Super senses and toughness. When he uses super senses on level 3 to 6, he can use vulnerability instead of toughness for that attack. And Mudman might have a problem trying to get through him. So I think Iron Rick might actually be able to help with the problem. Just kind of taking a quick look. Oh, here we go. Hulk would be another option too because he does Quake, right? So if they have multiple, you can't. We've decided no common. Like the format would say non-prime commons would be the format because primes end up being part of like that kind of chase category, and we just want to take away the argument of pay to win, guys. So, although if somebody bought a bunch of fast forces, that's their problem, not mine. Yeah, I think this is actually a fairly decent build. It does lack a little bit of perplex. I think this Iron Mitt is probably the most, shiftable. And as far as like this popper format itself, I will be setting out a document. I'm going to try to have it done by the end of Sunday. If I can get my article for Majestic set up by tomorrow at the latest. It's mostly done. I think I just need some editing and to write a conclusion on it. Yeah. So I'll set up an article for this, set up a thing, and see what goes down. And just kind of let's spread the format. Let's do that thing. Let's have one of those grassroots things where it's like this is a format that I don't want it to be a primarily competitive format, though I do want tournaments to occur with the format. I don't think it should ever be the main event for a big tournament, but I do think every main event should have this as a side event. So. I don't want the argument to be even existing, to be brutally honest, because common primes are still only 1 per case, and they are $8 to $10. In general, a common, like the highest dollar commons are usually ones you need like a ton of. So like there's rare occurrences where things like the suited henchmen, multiple men. They'll hit like $5 ranges, but I just kind of want to keep it low. And that $8 to $10 is a thing that somebody will say, and I just want to shut everybody up. I just want them all to shut up. So, I mean, I'm almost ready to pull fast forces from the format, but I just want a larger pool of characters, and I think the fast forces add enough of a pool, and the primes add too rare a pool, as it were. Like a fast force, I buy it, everything's in there, and if everybody buys the fast forces, we're all on the same thing. I'm not doing Highlander limits. I'm not doing that. Like I want it to run like Heroclix. If you add too many rules, you muddy the format, I think. And I'm not ready to institute bans until something is absolutely poisonous. Cable and like a lot of people instantly go Cable, Batman Beyond should be banned. It's like they shouldn't be banned. They should just be watched and metered. And I think they can still be beaten in the format. They're tough to beat, but they can be beaten. And some of it will require dice. That comes with tough characters. But I don't think they're poisoned in the format. So, but it's modern Pauper. And yeah, I mean, just modern Pauper. That's what I want to do. All right, bit of a lollygagging episode. A lot of me just chit chatting. That's going to be a thing to expect, you know. Kind of what this show format goes is, hey guys, how you doing? This is what I've been thinking about. This is what I've been looking at. This is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been playing as far as video games are concerned. Yesterday I played some Final Fantasy 3. I shared that. I've kind of not been on Street Fighter the past couple days, even though it's really just a pick up and play game. Iron Fist really has been distracting me because that takes like an hour per episode for me to focus on. So, yeah, here's how we're going to end the episode and go into next week's set of episodes. So next week, I haven't played Spider-Man yet. It's on my to-do list. Payday is this weekend, so maybe I'll get it then. My to-do list as far as the show is, next week we'll probably do the Thursday, Friday episodes again, or the Wednesday, Thursday episodes. I kind of want to squeeze into Wednesday, Thursday because I want to spend some time with my beautiful wife on Friday. I love her a lot, and you know.
Spyro comes out on Friday.
Spyro comes out on Friday?
Next Friday.
Okay, so I'm doing the episode on Thursday and Friday next week because Amber's not going to acknowledge my existence because Spyro comes out next Friday. Anyway, but I will come up with the full format rules and the full format description of the Pauper format so that you guys get a chance to share it with your venues. And if they want to run the events here and there, let me know how they go. And, you know, what I do suggest is if you do run this format, for the first couple times, keep the pricing high level so that you push a high level of competition for it so you can observe what people are going to attempt to do when trying their hardest to win the event. And that's, I think, will give you the best idea of how these things go. So, like, when I ran this tournament for a brick of figures, people brought their A game, and I saw some really cool stuff. I saw a team that played multiple Guardians as well. I mean, like, and that blew my mind how good the team actually was. So, give all of that some thought. Think about that. Let me know how it goes, and when we run it next week, and then we'll kind of build it as part of this whole show. You know, we'll build a format from the show. We'll talk about builds because this is all the stuff that comes out of Jason Collins, right? This is what we want. You want my brain dump. It's into the mind of my madness, and my madness is something just truly, truly outrageous, as Jem would say. I do believe I may have misnumbered this episode, though. I have to double check that to be sure. Because I'm having this crisis. No, I got it right. Okay. Thought I misnumbered it. Anyway, so in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching in the chat. Thank you very much for watching, in the chat and live. Thank you very much for watching in the archive. It was a very quick episode. I spent a lot more time talking about the history of Magic, but I kind of wanted to draw the parallels to Heroclix and just get people to open their minds up to some other things. And I actually directed you towards another channel, so that's probably terrible on my part. But you guys have a wonderful evening. I will see you guys next week as we enter my mind of madness, but I'll definitely see you guys on Monday for the Meta Lab. And we're going to try to get some more content on this channel soon. Have a good night, guys.